Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say thank you very much for your continued support. This is another analysis that has been in my mind for the last 1 week, and I realized that this is the best opportunity to talk about it. And so let's move together. The petitioners have presented their case. They have made their submissions, and the respondents have also made their submissions, and Kenyans have had an opportunity also to have an understanding on what exactly might have happened. So, of course, in the public court, the Kenyans have already made speculative judgments and speculative analysis on what exactly happened. I have seen the focus has been on technology, the technology that was used in that election. It has been questioned. Number two, on vote rigging, on the Form 34A and the Form 34C. And the judges also had asked fundamental questions on both sides. So if you ask me, number one, I can tell you that Supreme Court was more than prepared for that petition. Raila Odinga's lawyers, despite the fact that they really faced a lot of difficulties even to gather evidence, but if you ask me, it was difficult to get that evidence. Remember, you are objecting a results from IEBC, and IEBC is also sitting pretty comfortable, wants to defend itself. So you realize that IEBC was more defensive, and they seem to have been pushed at the same corner with William Ruto. So my analysis that William Ruto's lawyers might find themselves in an opportunity, in a chance that they just want to defend Wafula Chebukati, actually was seen. But then I want us to give it a different approach. And in this video, I want to look at 4 things that behind those documents, after listening and watching the evidence and reading the evidence by the both sides of lawyers, there are 4 things that are, according to me, is what will decide, will frame the decision by the Supreme Court. Because these are the questions that both petitioners and respondents, these are the binding questions. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our video. I also still repeat about Sarah Atieno's fundraiser. The 15 days extension is ending on Tuesday, and I continue to reach out to us in special way that after an extension, and we needed 215,000, we have gathered now close to 47. We are now remaining with 47,000 out of the 215. Kindly reach out before Tuesday so that we can make it, we can bring this to completion on Tuesday in a special way, and make sure that we discharge Sarah from the hospital as Team Bold. Amazing support I have seen from us here, people all over the country, and those who have also gone through the same situations, where maybe those who have lost their relatives with the same, and the relatives are going through that, and they're coming up in a special way. Asanteni sana deep from my heart, and may God meet you at the hour of need because of standing with Sarah. Now, the information is there. You can donate. The number is 0710 16 0710 62 78 89. I have mentioned them until I can even forget. I hope by Tuesday I'll bring this to completion. Asanteni sana, guys. Now, there are things that Supreme Court will have to look at. The things that Supreme Court must look at, number one, is what happened. What exactly happened? We have called for system audit, but then there is what is called the trail audit on what happened on tallying. What happened in the polling station? What happened at the transmission? It is the question of what happened, the trail of that audit trail. It's called audit trail. It's that audit trail that will help really the judges to establish beyond any reasonable doubt that the results that were announced by Wafula Chebukati were actually not the real representation, or rather the real voice of the Kenyan voter. The what happened question is a trail, because the reason why for me I look at this, and the reason why I am talking about what happened is this. If there was a problem at the polling station where a presiding officer colluded with an agent and there was a form that was edited, or at the polling station the KIMS kit did not work, so someone picked a manual register and through that there was manipulation, the what happened question, analysis of what happened at the polling station, will help the judges to understand the trail. If you understand that at the polling station, at the 46,000 polling station, there were 5,000 or there were 500, or maybe there is a percentage of 5% of polling stations that what happened there was not done in conformity with the law, you'll just use that to know that to some extent in the final tally, maybe it has contributed to a 3% discrepancy. Then you come from what happened there, then you ask again, what happened between 5:30 at the KIMS kit, between the KIMS kit and IBC portal? What happened between the KIMS kit and the National Tallying Center? If you understand that exactly something happened, then it will also help you to see that what might have happened, which is not in conformity with the laid protocol that IBC had given the political parties, might have contributed to some variance in the final 30, perhaps by 3%. Look at that. That's what, we're already at 6. You can look at that and then move further. And again, question another one. What happened at the National Tallying Center, at the verification desk? What happened with the 27 constituencies that were not announced? What happened that the percentage exceeded the 100%? The question of what happened, to me, ladies and gentlemen, and I think on Monday we'll all be attentive to listen to the judges. You will agree with me that the decision that the 7 judges will make will be based on the audit trail of what happened. Someone is asking, do we have the time to do the audit trail? With the affidavits that the judges received and the responses and the pleadings at the Supreme Court, that is already a team. They can do what happened. By the way, people need to know that when judges retreat to write their positions, or rather their judgments, they're not just in isolation. They have a technical team and a team that works with them. So this is something that can be done behind the cameras. Now, number 2, if after what happened, if you find out that something happened wrong, and without knowing or rather understanding that 1 million votes were maybe swindled, or some 1 million stray votes got its way into the tally, you just have to ask yourself the next question: what is the motive? what was the motive. I remember we did analysis before the election, and we were saying that to some extent, this election, whichever way this election was going to Supreme Court, it was going to be decided in Supreme Court. But we also mentioned that the commission, we were so much categorical that the commission needed to make sure that it is tamper-proof, it is free from rigging, because at the end of the day, they needed to prepare for Supreme Court. And I remember some analysts were saying that IBC might have bungled the election so that someone would go to the Supreme Court. Or rather, it was a ploy to bungle the polls. You just make a decision. You need to understand what is the motive. If the motive was to give, to hand over power, if the motive was just to manage the transition, that is what is also at the stakes. If the motive of the wrongdoing at the audit trail was to just hand over power, or rather to manage transition, then it will be upon the court to make sure that the motive is aborted. Because when you abort the motive cannot be singular. Because the motive that is supreme is the voice of the people. And the motive of the Kenyan voter is to make sure that his voice is heard in the ballot. So I am so interested into looking at what exactly happened. Wow. It's a very interesting one. Now, the other question that I also want us to look at is this. I think that the question is on the situation analysis. In the event of any other decision, or rather any other relief, or the prayer that court is going to grant, the question of, are we doing it for the moment, or is it fine for posterity? But just before that, let's look at who was responsible. It's what I call the personnel audit. When we know who is responsible, we will be in a position to do personnel audit. Then you can frame. It can be used in future and after the election to restructure the commission. I don't want to get into the commission so much because I have it in my other analysis. I'm going to look at it in my next analysis. But when you do personnel audit, you'll actually answer the elephant question on the room on how exactly should it be done in future. By the way, the Supreme Court case should not, and is not just going to give us to mediate the presidency, or rather to know who is going to be the next president. I don't think people look at it as if people have treated it as the Supreme Court judges are going to decide. I think the Standard was reporting that the Supreme Court judges are going to decide the careers of the politicians. I don't think that's the focus. The focus is not about destroying or building other people's careers, political careers. Even if Raila is going to lose or William Ruto is going to be nullified, the winner is going to be nullified, there is no political career that is going to be destroyed by the end of the day. I want to believe so. But then, when you do personnel audit, we'll actually have to know to understand in future what do we need to do. Then, let's finish with what I said. The question of situation analysis. What is the interest of the Kenyan voter? What is the interest? What is your interest? Even though this question depends on your political alienation, the interest is when we get presidency, hustler fund, we're going to price of unga, let's move on, that question. But there is also another point of peace, truth, and justice. Before you go to truth and justice, I think truth, justice, and peace. Before you get to peace, you must get truth and justice. Otherwise, I'm repeating this. I was listening today, I was at home, and I've been listening to the Luo stations. Yes, I like that because for them, they seem through the local vernacular stations, you can actually happen to understand what is the mood of the people and what is in the minds of people. And everyone is trying to say we are very peaceful, but there is inner bitterness. People are bitter. That's the truth. That's the truth. So the decision that Supreme Court must make is going to make will not only have an impact because they will make the Kenyan voter to have something that, are we just going to have president or presidency? If the judges just want us to have a president, it's very easy. But if they want us to have presidency, we might go through the long route, which nullify, rerun, all that process. But if for us to have a president, it's simple. You trash the evidence by Azimio, put them aside, and you have the president. Are we going to have a government or governance? Are you going for a government? Because, okay, after 5 years, we've had Jubilee 1, Jubilee 2. We need to have another UDA 1. Maybe you need to have Hustler 1, Hustler 2. Are we going to put in a government or we want governance? Those 4 questions on the fact that this case is going to have an impact in our future elections. I have insisted in my analysis that in this election, if we don't look at the issues that are being raised by Azimio, then careers of politicians are going to be destroyed in future by the portal and the electronic infrastructure at the IB. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my bold analysis.